Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks, where we take a look at those top stories making the headlines in Israel. We do it in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land. And many of you come here because, hey, you never hear Israel's side of the story. The mainstream media seems to be very, very focused on pushing a specific agenda. So you get it here, warts and all, unfiltered, no bull poo-poo, and of course, with the occasional rant. So let's take a look at today's headlines. It is day 691 since the 7th of October. And it is so important that we keep speaking about it because we still have 50 hostages that are held captive in the Gaza Strip. And yesterday, Israel came to a standstill again as hundreds of thousands of people took to the street in solidarity with the families of the hostages and the hostages. And as I said to you yesterday, not all of the hostage families believe in protesting, to each his own. And there are many people in the country who don't like the idea of these days of solidarity. But one thing we all want is all 50 of our hostages to come home. I think that there are many different opinions on how best that should happen. And what really broke my heart last night was listening to the father of Ram Braslavsky, Ram, who was one of the two hostages that we saw in those devastating videos a couple of weeks ago, showing his emaciated body. Ram speaking to the camera saying that he is in a lot of pain and he is so weak that he cannot stand. To hear his father say, "My son is dying," it breaks all of our hearts. That's when, whatever your opinion on how best to deal with bringing our hostages home or putting your point across, none of that matters when you hear the pain of the families behind the hostages. Our hostages are not just faces on posters, they are not just numbers, they are human beings, they are whole universes. Now, before I get criticism from the anti-Israels to say, what are the people in Gaza not humans either? Of course they are. Of course, nobody wants this war anymore, but we can't forget how this war started with the Hamas and other terror groups invading southern Israel and committing their gross atrocities and taking our people hostage, of which we still have 50 remaining in captivity. So let's take a look at the top stories. And a little later today, there is going to be a confab or meeting at the White House chaired by President Trump that is going to discuss Gaza the day after. And many people want to know what the plans are for the next day. This is the day after the war. And Prime Minister Netanyahu has taken a lot of criticism because he hasn't been forthcoming or hasn't shared a plan with the global community. Now, it is not clear if Israel will participate, if any other regional powers will participate, but our foreign minister is in the United States at the moment. So we don't know if he's going to participate in this, but we do know that the special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, has said Hamas understand that they can play no part in the future of Gaza. This is something that the Arab League has impressed upon them as well, that they need to give back the hostages, they need to surrender, and they need to get out of the Gaza Strip. It's only a pity that we don't have that same kind of language coming from allied countries like France, Australia, the United Kingdom, and Canada. Now, what is going to be up for discussion is Trump's Gaza plan. In February this year, President Trump spoke about his plan for Gaza, which caused a lot of controversy around the world. But hey, sometimes you need out-of-the-box thinking. And his philosophy is that remove all the civilians from the Gaza Strip, have them somewhere temporary, detonate and destroy all the unexploded ordnance, and then rebuild from scratch. Gaza is a tiny strip of land. The weather is amazing. It is on the water. There are resources available. There is no reason why the Gaza Strip shouldn't flourish. And just to be clear, Israel does not want to reoccupy Gaza. I always seem to have fluff during the Israel brief. Israel does not want to reoccupy Gaza. We do not want to resettle Gaza, but we cannot have Hamas on our doorstep. We now go to the big story of the week, which is what happened at the Naser hospital. It made headlines around the world, and there are allegations that Israel kills journalists, and has been said by the IDF and Prime Minister Netanyahu. We of course regret any civilian loss of life and the loss of journalists, and we respect and we value the work of journalists and medical personnel. But let's take a look at what the IDF's preliminary findings found. So I'm going to read to you from the statement. It says, from the initial inquiry, it appears that Golani Brigade troops operating in the area identified a camera that was positioned by Hamas in the area of the Naser hospital that was being used to observe the activity of IDF troops in order to direct terrorist activities against them. Now, I just want to pause here for a second, because Daniela Cunha, one of our former hostages, said that she was taken to Naser hospital along with other hostages, and that's where they were held captive. The statement goes on. In light of this, the troops operated to remove the threat by striking and dismantling the camera, and the inquiry showed that the troops operated to remove the threat. The chief of the general staff added that 6 of the individuals were terrorists, one of whom took part in the infiltration into Israeli territory on October the 7th. At the same time, the chief of the general staff regrets any harm caused to civilians. The investigation has now been expanded to look into how the strike was authorized and to examine the decision-making process in the field. And again, we would appeal to all journalists, to anyone opining, wait for the damn investigation. Do your job. Don't jump to conclusions. Pope Leo has called for the international community to help end the war in Gaza. He was addressing the faithful today. He says, and the immediate release of all of the hostages. The pontiff went on to say that he wants an end to the conflict that has caused so much pain and horror and devastation for people in the Holy Land. And he wants a permanent ceasefire and for humanitarian aid to be able to enter the strip safely. And I think my reading into that is it alludes to the fact that it is well known that Hamas loot the trucks sent in by that have been cleared by Israel and that go in collected by UN and other aid agency drivers. Remember, 3 weeks ago I was in Gaza. I brought you that story. It's on the channel of the mountains and mountains and mountains and mountains of aid left lying in the sun. The UN said that they can't get that aid in safely. The GHF, the IDF, offered to help them and they refused. He also went on to say that international law must be respected. Now, Israel respects international law. Hamas, however, does not. And finally, has Prime Minister Netanyahu just recognized the Armenian genocide? Well, yesterday, the Prime Minister, speaking on yet another popular podcast, this time Patrick Bet David, and I urge you all to watch it and please comment on it, because some of the comments are just beyond the pale, and they lead into my audience question of the day. When asked by Patrick if he recognizes the Armenian, Assyrian, and Greek genocides carried out by the Turks, The Prime Minister said yes. He says the Knesset even passed a resolution recognizing these genocides. And when Patrick Bet David said to him, but we want to hear from you in your personal capacity, he said, I'm telling you now. Needless to say, Turkey has condemned the Prime Minister's comments, saying it is to distract from what is happening in Gaza. So those are our top stories. Let's take a look at the audience question. And before we do, a reminder that tomorrow is Thursday, so get those mentions and morons to me as soon as possible. So today's question comes from Gary in Sydney. G'day, Gary, who says, why are people eating the propaganda? Gary, if I had a simple answer for you, I wish I did. First of all, I think that the propaganda that has been pushed by Hamas with the help of the elites in the West, and I urge you all to check out an excellent article written by Brendan O'Neill. It's in Spiked, who says, the title is called We Have Been Lied to About Gaza. If you Google it, it's We Have Been Lied to About Gaza, and you can just put there Spiked. And basically this well-orchestrated campaigns the foundations have been laid for years and years and years, carefully funded by Qatar, who fund various media, who fund various academia, and the propaganda is spreading. Hamas have used our weaknesses against us, which is our reverence for life and humanity, and are using that as a stick to beat Israel. And I also think it goes to good old-fashioned Jew hatred. You know, Natan Sharansky, who is a human rights icon, said that you can measure the anti-Semitism by what he called the 3 Ds. Demonization, so demonization of the Jewish people and the Jewish state. Delegitimization, the calling into question the legitimacy of the state of Israel. And I'll go as far now as to say our Jewish history, because there are many attempts to rewrite our history. Everything from our biblical connection to the land, to our genocide during the Holocaust, and double standards. And I think we can all see that Israel is judged by a standard completely different to any other country that has ever had to endure a war, and in our case a war for our very survival. So I think it's a lot of things, and yeah, I'm going to put my head on the block and say it is ugly, 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 old-fashioned Jew hatred. So guys, that's it from me for today. Please don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our YouTube channel is right here at the Israel Brief. If you like us, please consider subscribing. We want to get over that 2,000 subscriber base. It would really, really help us here. Like, share, and subscribe. We are on Facebook at Lottel Site. Thank you to all our new community members. We are on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, Substack at Rolene Marks, and on X at Lay of the Land 5. So guys, God bless you all, and I will see you tomorrow with your mentions and your morons. Bye for now.